The whispers started before they even reached the entrance. Turned, eyes followed, and quiet assumptions filled the air. A millionaire arriving at his sister's wedding wasn't surprising, but the woman beside him was. Dressed with elegance and quiet confidence, she walked in as if she belonged there, yet no one seemed ready to accept that. And then, just when the tension reached its peak, the groom looked straight at her and said a single word that stunned everyone: "Boss." In that moment, everything people thought they knew began to unravel. He had expected attention, but not like this. As they stepped into the grand hall, he could feel the weight of every glance, every unspoken judgment. Yet she walked beside him calmly, unaffected by the atmosphere. Her presence wasn't loud or demanding, but it carried a certainty that stood in contrast to the whispers around them. He glanced at her briefly, wondering how she managed to remain so composed. To him, she had always been someone to respect, someone to listen to. But here, in this room filled with people who saw only what they expected to see, he realized just how misunderstood she might be. The family greeted him with warmth, but their curiosity was impossible to hide. Questions were asked without words, expressions revealing more than voices ever could. She responded with grace, offering polite smiles and measured replies. There was no need for her to explain herself. She wasn't there to prove anything. Still, the distance was clear, an invisible line drawn by assumptions that had yet to be challenged. He felt it, too, a subtle shift in how the room responded, and it made him uneasy in a way he hadn't anticipated. As the ceremony began, the focus shifted, at least on the surface. Guests turned their attention to the aisle, to the music, to the carefully planned moments unfolding before them. But beneath it all, the earlier tension lingered. He sat quietly, observing, her expression thoughtful. He wondered what she was thinking, whether she noticed the same things he did. Yet when he looked at her, there was no sign of discomfort, only a calm awareness, as if she understood something deeper about the situation. The reception brought the conversations back to laughter, music, and movement filled the space, but so did quiet observations. People approached them with polite curiosity, trying to understand what didn't fit into their expectations. She engaged when necessary, always composed, always grounded. It became clear that her confidence wasn't dependent on the room's approval. And slowly, that began to shift the way some people saw her. Not entirely, not immediately, but enough to create a subtle change in the atmosphere. Came the moment no one expected. As the groom moved through the crowd, greeting guests, his eyes landed on her. His expression changed instantly, from celebration to recognition. He walked directly toward her, ignoring the confusion around him. And when he spoke, his voice carried clearly enough for those nearby to hear. He didn't hesitate, didn't second-guess. He addressed her with respect, calling her boss in a tone that left no room for misunderstanding. The room fell quiet, the word echoing louder than any music. Confusion spread quickly. People looked at each other, trying to make sense of what they had just heard. The groom, however, continued speaking, his respect evident in every word. He spoke of her leadership, her guidance, the role she had played in shaping opportunities not just for him, but for many others. It wasn't exaggerated or dramatic, it was simple truth, spoken without hesitation. He spoke, the perception in the room began to shift in real time. The millionaire stood there, watching the reaction unfold. He's known her value, but seeing it revealed in this way, in this setting, felt different. It was no longer just his understanding, it was something others were now beginning to see. He noticed the change in expressions, the way curiosity replaced judgment, the way respect slowly replaced doubt. It wasn't immediate, but it was undeniable. She responded with the same composure she had carried all evening. A small smile, a few words of acknowledgement, nothing more. She didn't need the moment to be about. She didn't need recognition to validate her worth. And that, more than anything, left an impression on those watching. It wasn't just what had been revealed, it was how she carried it. As the evening continued, the atmosphere felt different. Conversations shifted, not just in topic, but in tone. People approached her with genuine interest now, asking questions not out of curiosity alone, but out of respect. The invisible line that once separated her from the room began to fade, and in its place, a new understanding started to form, one that went beyond assumptions. He found himself reflecting on everything that had happened. What started as a simple arrival had turned into something far more significant. It wasn't just about changing how others saw her, it was about challenging how easily people define others without truly knowing them. And in that realization, he felt a sense of responsibility, not just to her, but to the way he engaged with the world around him. By the end of the night, the whispers had changed. Where there had once been doubt, there was now admiration. Where there had been distance, there was now connection. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't complete, but it was a beginning. And sometimes, that's all it takes to create lasting change. As they left the venue, the energy of the night stayed with them. He looked at her, this time with a deeper understanding, not just of who she was, but of what she represented. She had never needed the room's approval, yet she had transformed it simply by being herself. In that quiet strength, there was a lesson that would remain long after the wedding ended. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments aren't planned. They happen when truth meets assumption, when respect replaces doubt, and when someone's presence alone is enough to change everything.